What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Legitical Response. We cover political news. We keep you up to date and keep you informed with all the twisted BS lies of the corporate press and exactly what kind of undercover clandestine BS the government is trying to pull on us. Yeah, when you hear PSYOP, you think, oh, crazy tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, right? That's what you think. Well, come to find out that there's been several PSYOPs out there that we just so happen to have speculated on. And hang on, you put out a FOIA request and all of a sudden, hang on, one thing leads to another, and then we go ahead and find out, hey, that PSYOP was real. They were actually injecting black people with syphilis to see what happened. Like, what? How come those people aren't in jail? And it's just crazy because there's so many of these out there that we could just deep dive off into. But I found this story earlier that just, it blew my mind. I'm like, well, it kind of blew my mind, I say. It's like, it kind of surprised me, to be honest with you, because as hardcore as the government was, and we're going to get into some COVID-19 stuff here, so go ahead, YouTube. Put the warning down below the video. We're talking about COVID-19, so I'll say it once again, COVID-19, because that's what we're talking about. But as hardcore as the government was pushing the vaccine, right? Like, they even had their audio logs out in public, right? Like, screaming and yelling at you if you didn't put a freaking mask on or something like that. Or if you didn't get vaccinated, you were like a leper or something. Y'all remember that? Leprosy? How they used to treat lepers back in the day. They would shun them from society. Yeah, that's how these people were. You would actually absolutely be dismissed from society altogether. You just gone. You know, no more you if you had leprosy back in the day. Or they would just outright kill you. But, I mean, some of these people were genuinely crazy. Right? Like, if you didn't have your vaccine, they were talking about vaccine passports and all this other stuff. Like, what? Really? You really want me to take an experimental vaccine that was rushed into service that we don't know the long-term effects from, right? Like, no, I'm sorry. I don't have a problem with vaccines, by the way. And once again, I'll say it for YouTubes, I'm not a doctor, and don't take any kind of medical advice from me. This is just an opinion piece. As always, though, don't take medical advice from me. But I don't want to take an experimental vaccine regardless of who made it, right? Like, that whole thing was just funny because when it was Trump pushing the vaccine, you had Joe Biden and Kamala Harris both said, oh, I don't know about taking that vaccine. And as soon as Joe Biden gets put in office, what is it? Vaccine mandates on you. Yep. Take your vaccine, put your mask on, and stay at home, folks. That's what the message was. And this story blows my mind because of that. Check this out. Pentagon ran secret anti-vax campaign to undermine China during pandemic. Yeah, they ran an anti-vaccine campaign. This is nuts, y'all. At the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. military launched a secret campaign to counter what it perceived as China's growing influence in the Philippines, a nation hit especially hard by the deadly virus. The clandestine operation has not been previously reported. So, breaking news, folks. It aimed to sow doubt about the safety and efficacy of vaccines and other life-saving aid that was being supplied by China, a Reuters investigation found. Through phony internet accounts meant to impersonate Filipinos, the military's propaganda efforts morphed into an anti-vax campaign. Social media posts decried the quality of face masks, test kits, and the first vaccine that would become available in the Philippines, China's Sinovac inoculation. So this was basically meant to push to shut down China's vaccine. Why? Why China's vaccine, right? So the big pharmaceutical companies, because, anybody out there, do y'all hate the term big pharma? My mom actually turned me on to this, which is weird for me to say, by the way. But my mom actually turned me on to that because she said, I hate big pharma, and it instantly clicked with me. Like, I can't stand that word either. So you never hear me say big pharma. I'll always say the pharmaceutical companies or something like that because I don't know why. I guess it's one of my pet peeves. And look, I've gotten off on a little side rant about talking about how I hate big pharma. I'm sorry, you guys. Let's keep going. But Big pharmaceuticals. Reuters identified at least 300 accounts on X, formerly Twitter, that matched descriptions shared by the former U.S. military officials familiar with the Philippines operation. Almost all were created in the summer of 2020 and centered on the slogan #ChinaAngVirus. Tagalog for China is the virus. COVID came from China, and the vaccine also came from China. Don't trust China. One typical tweet from July 2020 read in a tagline. The words were next to a photo of a syringe beside a Chinese flag and a soaring chart of infections. Another post read, "From China, PPE, face mask, vaccine, fake. But the coronavirus is real." After Reuters asked X about the accounts, the social media company removed the profiles, determining they were part of a coordinated bot campaign based on activity patterns and internal data. The U.S. military's anti-vax efforts began in the spring of 2020 and expanded beyond Southeast Asia before it was terminated in mid-2021, Reuters determined, tailoring the propaganda campaign to local audiences across Central Asia, and the Middle East. The Pentagon used a combination of fake social media accounts on multiple platforms to spread fear of China's vaccine among Muslims at the time when the virus was killing tens of thousands of people each day. A key part of the strategy amplified the disputed contention that became vaccines sometimes contain pork gelatin. China's shots could be considered forbidden under Islamic law. The military program started under former President Donald Trump and continued months into Joe Biden's presidency, Reuters found, even after alarmed social media executives warned the new administration that the Pentagon had been trafficking in COVID misinformation. The Biden White House issued an edict in spring 2021 banning the anti-vax efforts, which also disparaged vaccine produced by other rivals, and the Pentagon initiated an internal review, Reuters found. So, the military industrial complex, the CIA probably started this off. And, I can tell by this, they didn't really get too deep into it, thank goodness. It doesn't seem they're being too partisan with this, but it started under Donald Trump. And we know from recent videos that there was a lot of CIA agents that were absolutely withholding information from Donald Trump. So, for all those people, they're like, oh, well, Trump was doing it. No, sorry. Can't claim that. You cannot claim that at all. Sure, it was started under Donald Trump, but it was also done under Joe Biden. You want me to say, oh, Joe Biden's evil too? No, I'm sorry. These people are rogue. They go off and do their own thing. That's why we've got to watch out for the deep state, folks. That's why we need Congress. We need new members of Congress, for the most part, aside from like maybe 10 members of Congress, 9 Republicans and 1 Democrat. That's right. I am talking good about a Democrat because there are at least 1 based Democrats out there. I know I said that singular to plural, but whatever. I just thought that was funny. I'm sorry. But yeah, these people go off and do their own thing. So you can't always blame everything on the president, right? Like, I know that inflation isn't all Joe Biden's fault. Gas prices isn't all Joe Biden's fault, even though it is mostly Joe Biden's fault with the gas prices, specifically because of his ridiculous climate agenda BS. But, inflation was caused a lot in part by COVID. We know that. However, my criticism of Joe Biden on inflation comes as his administration did absolutely nothing to try to ease its effects, if you will, to try to stop it. They didn't raise rates early. They didn't do anything. We had a supply chain problem. We had a supply chain crisis. And where was the transportation secretary? He was on maternity leave. Yeah, he was on maternity leave. You might be thinking, hang on, maternity leave? Well, why? Yeah, guess what? His boyfriend is also a dude, so neither one of them were pregnant, but they were on maternity leave, right? Like, somebody's got to take care of the baby they adopted. Sure, but when you're the transportation secretary and your nation that you're working for, supposed to be working for, is in a transportation crisis, a supply chain problem, right? Maybe you should think about coming out of retirement and getting to work and doing your thing. to try to fix this problem, because inflation shot way up, folks. And like I said, they didn't do any sort of action on inflation until it hit 9%, until it was way up there. And it was like just reactionary. They're like, oh, it's going to be transitory. It'll go back down. Of course it'll go back down. It can't stay at 9%, you freaking idiot. But the fact that you're not doing anything to try to stop it, and the fact that it got to 9% in the first place, when you could have done, there could have been many actions you could have taken to halt it at 5 or 6% instead of allowing it to get to 9%, or at least that's what some economists say. The U.S. military is prohibited from targeting Americans with propaganda, and Reuters found no evidence the Pentagon's influence operation did so. Spokesperson for Trump and Biden did not respond for requests for comments about the clandestine program, probably because they didn't know about it. A senior Defense Department official acknowledged the U.S. military engaged in secret propaganda to disparage China's vaccine in the developing world, but the official declined to provide details. A Pentagon spokeswoman said the U.S. military uses a variety of platforms, including social media, to counter those malign influence attacks aimed at the U.S. allies and partners. She also noted that China had started a disinformation campaign to falsely blame the United States for the spread of COVID-19. And you know what I would say to that? Good luck, China. It started in China. Right? And I can see where they're coming from on that, right? Like, we have our own questions for our own officials about the start of COVID-19. Exactly where did that come from? Exactly whose funding was funding this, right? Like, many questions for Dr. Fauci. And, you know, when he does come up for one of those committee hearings, he lies through his freaking teeth all the freaking time. But, you know, you can't blame the guy for lying. He started a global pandemic. Not really. He didn't really start it himself, but you can follow the money to wherever it leads, and you will see that we did give that lab in Wuhan a lot of money. Was it specifically for this? Maybe, maybe not. Like, how are you going to keep account of exactly what they spend that money on? Right? Like, we sent a bunch of rats over there, lab rats, in other words, for them to study and do all kind of experiments on. Who knows, right? Like, there's no way for us to actually know if they used some of our funding. However, we didn't give a whole hell of a lot versus the budget that place actually has. I think it's like 0.2% of their budget what came from us. In other words, came from the United States, was responsible, you know, what that Fauci was responsible for. So, you know, it's really hard to say. But we know, we're pretty sure, like, logic can tell you that, yeah, we're pretty sure that's a lab-grown virus that came out of that Wuhan lab, the COVID-19 lab, for God's sakes.
What do you mean by that? Do you mean like perhaps there's a chance that this was created in a lab? There's an investigation.
A chance?
Well, but
oh my
if
God.
there was evidence, I'd love to hear it.
There's a novel respiratory coronavirus overtaking Wuhan, China. What do? Oh, you know who we could ask? The Wuhan novel respiratory coronavirus lab. The disease is the same name as the lab. That's just a little too weird, don't you think? And then they ask the scientists, they're like, how did this, so wait a minute, you work at the Wuhan respiratory coronavirus lab. How did this happen? And they're like, a pangolin kissed a turtle. And you're like, no, the name of your lab, if you look at the name, let me see your business card. Show me your business card. Oh, I work at the coronavirus lab in Wuhan. Oh, because there's a coronavirus loose in Wuhan. How did that happen? Maybe a bat flew into the cloaca of a turkey and then it sneezed into my chili, and now we all have coronavirus. Like, come on.
Okay, wait a second.
What about this? What about this? Listen to this.
Wait a second.
All right.
John.
Oh, my God. There's been an outbreak of chocolatey goodness near Hershey, Pennsylvania. What do you think happened? Like, oh, I don't know. Maybe a steam shovel mated with a cocoa bean. Or it's the chocolate factory. Maybe that's it.
That could be.
Yes, Jon Stewart is a genius for that one. I'll give him that one. That's a good one. In an email, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that it has long maintained the U.S. government manipulates social media and spreads misinformation. That is true. Manila's embassy in Washington did not respond to Reuters' inquiries, including whether it had been aware of the Pentagon operation. A spokesperson for the Philippines Department of Health, however, said the findings by Reuters deserve to be investigated and heard by the appropriate authorities of the involved countries. I totally agree. Some aid workers in the Philippines, when told of the U.S. military propaganda efforts by Reuters, expressed outrage. Yeah, I would too. Why do we get involved in all this crap? Why? Like, I don't want to pay for that. We talked about this in the last video. Like most Americans, if you go to them up on the street and say, hey, are you okay with the U.S. military starting a program to put out mis and disinformation about China's vaccine, right? Like to lie to a bunch of people on social media and all this other blah, blah, blah. They'll probably say, hell no. They'll probably get enraged. Like, why would they do that? Right? Like, no, it pisses people off. So why should we pay for that, right? Like, we're partially responsible for that now. And that pisses me off because I don't like taking responsibility for something that I didn't do. And that is so aggravating. Why does the U.S. government does this? Why do they think it's okay? And once again, this goes back to, if you don't like these actions, vote for Donald Trump, because we're not going to get any action on this from Joe Biden. That is for damn sure. We are not going to get any action on this from any establishment politician. You can get some action on this by voting Vivek Ramaswamy in as president, for sure. Maybe Trump. There's a possibility he goes in and obliterates the deep state like he says he's going to do. But by God, he is no angel. He had some terrible policies during his presidency. However, he was the best president of my lifetime. However, that is a very low bar, I must say. Briefed on the Pentagon's secret anti-vax campaign by Reuters, some American public health experts also condemned the program, saying it put civilians in jeopardy for potential geopolitical gain. An operation meant to win hearts and minds, endangered lives, they said. They're right. I don't think it's defensible, said Danielle Lucy, an infectious disease specialist at Dartmouth's Geisel School of Medicine. I'm extremely dismayed, disappointed, and disillusioned to hear that the U.S. government would do that, said Lucy, a former military physician who assisted in response to the 2001 anthrax attacks. The effort to stoke fear about Chinese inoculations risked undermining overall public trust in government health initiatives, including U.S.-made vaccines that become available later, Lucy and others said. Although the Chinese vaccines were found to be less effective than the American-led shots by Pfizer and Moderna, all were approved by the World Health Organization. Sinovac did not respond to Reuters for a request for comment. Academic research published recently has shown that when individuals develop skepticism toward a single vaccine, those doubts often lead to uncertainty about other inoculations. Lucy and other health experts say they saw such a scenario play out in Pakistan, where the Central Intelligence Agency used a fake hepatitis vaccination program in Abbottabad as cover to hunt for Osama bin Laden, the terrorist mastermind behind the attacks of September 11, 2001, blah, blah, blah. The discovery of the ruse led to a backlash against an unrelated polio vaccine campaign, including attacks on healthcare workers, contributing to the reemergence of the deadly disease in the country. Together, the phony accounts used by the military had tens of thousands of followers during the program. Reuters could not determine how widely the anti-vax material and other Pentagon-planted disinformation was viewed, or to what extent the post may have caused COVID deaths by dissuading people from getting vaccinated. In the wake of the U.S. propaganda efforts, however, then Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte had grown so dismayed by how few Filipinos were willing to be inoculated that he threatened to arrest people who refused vaccinations. And that's what I'm talking about. You had a lot of people with vaccine derangement syndrome, right? Like, if you weren't vaccinated, you got shunned from society, just booted out, as if you have no feelings whatsoever, right? Like, these people just went absolutely nuts over this. And the government was right there just pushing it right on along, right? Like, they say there's no evidence that they had nothing to do with American propaganda, right? Like, propagandizing the American people, which we did find out that later that, yeah, now Congress actually approved the deep state to propagandize the American people. Yeah, they can do that nowadays, in case you didn't know. So you got to watch out for their propaganda. You got to watch out for their BS. You need somebody who's going to logically read these news articles out and put them together and give you a based opinion on how you should feel. Wonder who that could be. Hit that subscribe button. You choose vaccine or I will have you jailed, a masked Duarte said in television address in June 2021. There's a crisis in this country. I'm just exasperated by Filipinos not heeding the government. Boy, think about seeing that. Think about seeing a freaking masked Joe Biden getting on television saying he's going to come and put you in jail if you don't take this vaccine. As a matter of fact, they were just about doing that. They were doing everything but that, right? Forcing people to get fired from military positions. Thousands, tens of thousands of military service members were let go from the military. Tons, hundreds of thousands of people probably got fired from their jobs in these left-wing, insane, deranged areas where these people just went complete appeal to authority. Just yeah, whatever you say, government, we bend the knee and just do whatever the hell you want us to do. Right? Like, I was skeptical, right? I'm not a vaccine skeptic in general, right? Like, I was vaccinated as a kid. Didn't have no problem with it back then. But you come up with a vaccine within, was it 6, 8, 9 months? And then expect me to take it and there have been no long-term studies? None of that stuff. No, I'm sorry. I'm a little bit skeptical. I don't want to put that in my body. No, you can go screw yourself. I will take my truck and I will go down and live off the freaking land before I take a vaccine that I don't want to take. Right? Like, as far as I know, I never got COVID at all. Like, I was exposed to COVID several times, and never got it. My wife got it. My kid got it. But I never did, as far as I know. Right? Like, they did say a small percentage of the population got it and showed no symptoms. Maybe I'm the one that gave it to the old lady and just didn't know it. But I never got the damn thing. So I never wanted to take the vaccine. I still don't want to take the vaccine. So I'm not going to take that vaccine. Maybe 10, 15 years down the road, once we see just how effective it is, maybe I might think about taking it then. If COVID-19 persists and evolves and gets more deadly, sure. As it is right now, no, I don't think so. Don't think I will. But once again, not telling you not to take it. I'm just saying my personal situation. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's wise for me to do so, considering I've been exposed to COVID so much and have never gotten it, as far as I know. But you guys gotta watch out for the damn propaganda out there. I'm telling you, these people, the corporate press within itself is a propaganda outlet. They twist stuff around so much. I mean, they're putting out Trump's hoaxes on a constant basis. They're all left-wing activists. For the most part, you've got a couple of news organizations that are not TV news or anything like that. Like don't think that Fox News is a trusted news source, right? Just because they're right wing, they're quote unquote right wing. If you go look up some of their company policies, you'll probably be dismayed by how left wing their company policies are. Right? Like, so don't trust Fox. And definitely not MSNBC or NBC. NBC is the worst. Like, in their subsidiaries, their sub companies, those are the worst, man. CNN's getting a little bit better. CNN is still fake news. You got fake Tapper I heard Trump say that earlier in an interview. And it's like, he said, oh, fake Tapper's doing the debate. And I'm like, yeah, fake Tapper, that's a good one. But you got to watch it. You got to just logically think about things. Just stop and think for a second. If you read a news article, or even if you hear me say something, right? Because I'm not immune. I'm not inoculated from propaganda, right? Like, I can see a lot of it coming, right? Like, I read these news stories, and that's pretty much the only reason I cover every single story you hear me cover is because I read out that news story and I saw some BS in there. And I'm like, oh, they're trying to propagandize the American people. Let me go ahead and counter that propaganda with a little bit of counter propaganda. That's just what I do. Right? Like, everything I say might not be the truth. Of course, I have my opinions. I have my biases, but you can be damn straight that when I read one of these stories and I counter it with something, I fact-checked everything I'm about to say. Right? Like, if I give you an opinion, that is my opinion. Like, when it comes to abortion and things like that, that's my opinion. Don't take facts from that. Right? Like, but if I give you some facts, like 15% of the American people think I'm an idiot. Right? That's not true. Because 15% of the American people have no idea who I am. As a matter of fact, 99.99999% of the American people have no idea who I am. But I know, I'm just kidding now. I'm just joking, trying to lighten the mood a little bit from this clandestine story, if you will. Crazy crap the U.S. military does. Like, and we have to pay for that. And technically, you know, think about it viewing from somebody outside the country. From a Filipino, as a matter of fact. Right? Like, they know that we're a free society. We're a democracy. So they know that we pay taxes, but we vote our representatives into office. So we're partially responsible because those people that represent us in Congress, they authorize the defense budget. So we're responsible for that, technically. When it all boils down to it, like I said, from an outside perspective, we are most definitely responsible for this. So this type of crap pisses me off because I don't want to be responsible for that. Because if I ever decide to go to the Philippines, I don't want these people looking at me like, you did this to us. You know, you tried to propagandize us. No, it wasn't me. I didn't authorize that. They did that behind my back. I had nothing to do with that. But are they going to look at it that way? That's why I always say it's important for us to know our congressmen, to know who the hell we're voting for, because these people do some underhanded stuff. And I know it's not Congress that did this, it's military that did this. But once again, we authorized their budget. And I can assure you, somebody in Congress knew this was going on. These people get intelligence briefings, for God's sakes. And I can almost assure you, at some point, some congressman on the Intelligence Committee or something knew about this, knew this was going on. Foreign Affairs, one of those, knew this was going on, and that kind of pisses me off. But I think I've rambled on for long enough. You know, another damn 30-minute video. My last video was freaking 30 minutes. I guess I just got overhyped again today. I don't know. It's hard, man. If you guys, honestly, if you're still here on this video, let me know down in the comment section if you don't mind. I would appreciate that. But if you guys knew me in real life, you would be like, what? What the hell is he doing on camera? Because I don't talk to people at all. Like, I'm extremely introverted. Extremely introverted. Like I'll talk, hey, what's up, blah, 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 blah. But I generally go work by myself. I don't really talk much when I do work. If somebody comes up and starts a conversation, I'll talk to them, sure, but not much, right? Like, I generally don't give out more information than what's needed to carry on a conversation. I don't do this with anybody, right? Like, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it is because I have all this crap going on in my head constantly, right? Like, my internal monologue is just non-stop all day, every day. And it's just, so I got to get some of it off my chest, I guess. So, you know, let me know down in the comment section if that seems weird to you. But I think I've rambled on for long enough, you guys. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all this. And that's all I got for this video, y'all. I want to thank everybody for watching. Y'all try to have a good one. Stay legitical. Peace.